Hi, everybody. This is Aseem Kapoor, founder and chief architect of ARK People Solution, and I'm delighted to be back with you with another episode of ARKcast. In times these days when words like epidemic, pandemic have become a regular part of our vocabulary, I came across something very unique, different, refreshing, and intriguing: Happydemic. And it was not just the play on words that actually excited me or actually brought me in, or maybe it was. I mean, Happydemic was a very, very different word that I heard. But as I picked up the book and I started reading it, I realized that it was somebody's very own personal story, which somebody has very clearly and openly shared with all of us, but with the point of view of allowing us to see a potential roadmap or a potential action plan that we can all take to take control of our own happiness and move forward in these challenging times. And therefore, today I'm very delighted to welcome to the ARKcast studio Larissa Radelli, the author of this awesome book, Happydemic. Larissa, thank you so much for being here today, and I really appreciate the time that you've taken.
Thank you so much, Aseem, for inviting me. I'm delighted and excited for this.
Pleasure's all mine. So, Larissa, I mean, for somebody like you, it's very difficult to give a summarized introduction. I mean, you've had such an awesome, experience and career and everything. So I'm going to give it a try, but please feel free to add in at any point of time, right? So, a Swiss Lebanese-born individual, brought up in Lebanon, worked in 14 different countries, and now settled in Abu Dhabi. Right? I'm good so far.
Correct.
Right?
Perfect.
Great. So you're a happiness master coach with almost 28 years experience in executive and leadership coaching. And you're also a mind personal trainer supporting people towards driving and spreading sustainable happiness.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, from your point of view, where you've kind of reached and you have created this awesome book, I went through it myself, right? I said, okay, the book was extremely, and I have to say, I think I was hooked when I was on page 2, right? And what really kind of brought me in was the fact that you have been so open. I saw through the book that you've had a fair amount of challenges as you've gone through life, like right from childhood to your adulthood. You've had fair amount of ups and downs in your career, which has impacted your personal life. You've had 3 near-death experiences. So what prompted you, I mean, and I guess that's the obvious question, what prompted you to choose a title like Happydemic first, and what prompted you to write a book?
So actually, this book is my second book.
Right.
It was always in my mind since age 18, since I left Lebanon and I decided to take care of myself and build myself piece by piece after going through a lot, as you just mentioned. Actually, I would say, the opportunity or the blessing to experience all what negativity is all about.
Right.
But it was all together in one go when you're young. It was quite tough, challenging. Nevertheless, I decided that I'm going to take care of myself. And I left age 18 to experience life, and then we will be definitely discussing some of the aspects. Now, I wanted to write the book. I wanted to write my story, actually even do a movie about the story, because there are so many things I didn't even say in the book. I just wanted to be very generic,
Right.
but in the same time impactful, to say to people that no matter what we go through, there's nothing that you cannot do for as long as you're living. Right. I mean, for as long as you breathe, right, you can still do something about it. So time went by. I wrote my first book because I wanted that this book, be as well a help for other people. Because as you read in my book, I was very lonesome in my journey of getting back on my feet, or didn't have the right, let's say, indicators or people or mentors at the time of my young years. So I had to do it by myself. And I'm very happy I did, because actually now I know what I'm talking about. I can really tell you lots of things. So I started writing Happydemic with another title 2 years ago, 2018.
Right.
Following the third near-death episode, which was a car crash. I fell off a cliff in Italy. The second day of my arrival from holidays from Dubai.
Oh my
I was
God.
living in Dubai. And as the car was crashing down this hill, and you're just realizing, am I going to make it? Am I going to die? Am I already dead and I'm already somewhere else? Anyways, to cut the story short, that was my third light in this tunnel of saying, there's something you need to learn. But this time, you really have to learn it. Not that I didn't learn the first two, but this time it was really, maybe I wasn't valuing my own life as much as it should have been. I've always been a light in the tunnel of the world, my clients, my friends, my family, my kids, whoever. And this message of Happydemic, when I started writing it after my accident, was like, this is where the word living came into in my map. It was like the message that I had to spread my message, that I have another chance again, but I have to use it really this time, 100%.
Right.
So I started writing it as a therapy, first of all, for myself.
Right.
And I started, it was called Your Roadmap to Happiness.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
I wrote it, finished, put it in a file.
Right.
And then pandemic came.
Right.
Coincidence, isn't it?
Right.
And big moves in my life. We moved from Dubai to Ras Al Khaimah. Right. And this was the biggest, silence that you could have in your life. And I started writing, bringing back my book. And I said, I'm not going to stay here, do nothing.
Right.
There's something I need to do. And all these news podcasts, everybody from my own work, I lost my job, actually.
Right.
That was the first thing that hit me.
Right.
And I said, I'm not going to let this take over me.
Right.
I need to do something about it. And then I started actually doing coping journal. Very, very, very rudimental at home in my room. And from this coping journal, I said, wait a minute, I am desperate. What about all the people around me?
Right.
And this is how I said, no, we have a choice. Either we will get it influenced by it and die and just get the fear, the anxiety, and all the negative that the pandemic is giving at all means, work-wise, messages, news, everywhere, or we choose to live it, take what's best in it, and learn of how we can move on. So I brought back my book that I started writing 2 years ago,
right,
and redirected the whole thing towards spreading it contagiously, like
right.
like a pandemic spreads,
right.
But instead of spreading fear, anxiety, and blockages and limitations,
right.
spreading faith to start with,
right.
Spreading hope,
right.
And spreading happiness.
Right.
Coping strategies, we're all in this together and we'll get out of it all together, but
right.
not by walking on each other's heads.
Right.
And this is how Happydemic found its way. It took me from May till, let's say, October's. And then we started editing it, and it's out since January.
Wow.
End of January, available, as you see, all over the world in Amazon and so forth.
Yes.
And as well in Virgin. So I'm very happy about this.
Great.
It's a great achievement.
No. Correct.
And Kinokuniya.
Yeah, no, congratulations to you. I mean, because again, I think what kind of hit me about the book was that it is just so written from heart that you can actually feel it, right? There is no words mincing. There is no unnecessary, complicated kind of words or lines used. And I think it's just something that, you had in your heart and you've kind of put it out there. And to be honest with you, as I was going through it, I stand corrected. It wasn't the second page. It was actually the first page that hooked me because, and what you just said, I'm going to read from it. We are all human beings walking around and spreading information about our experiences, both positive and negative. The question here is, can we become attentive and aware of the results we produce around us? Are we producing gardens that are in turn giving healthy fruit, colorful flowers, plants and trees, or devastated and thirsty lands with dead plants, unhealthy flowers and broken trees? And I guess that's what you meant when you said, it's all about spreading faith. It's all about spreading hope. It's all about spreading that positivity and everything, even though there is pandemic. I guess in times like this, which seem to be extremely desperate and negative, is when extra positivity needs to come in so that we all continue with life and look forward to the better times, right?
This is when you are faced with adversity, such as an adversity like a pandemic.
Yes.
This is where you will see how much we are in our comfort zone.
Right. Right.
So the moment we are hit by such a huge thing that is beyond our control, and actually there are 3 spheres of control. One we can control, one we can influence, and we have one we have no control of.
Absolutely.
And this is part of the no control of.
Yeah.
What happened is that all the system around us is just making it, not only that we can't control it, that it's eating us out, like it's influencing us in such a manner that we can't even rise. So then it's at our choice as humans,
True.
because we have a choice,
True.
is to take this pandemic as a learning curve. And many people did, many people didn't. And everything is normal. When you get out of your comfort zone, it's something you don't know,
Yes,
right?
yes.
It's obvious you will feel fear.
Yeah.
It's obvious you are going to worry that, am I going to have my job tomorrow? Am I losing my job? How am I going to feed my family? All this is normal. But are you going to be able to produce, perform, find another job, or be healthy when you are in this mindset? Or is it better that you look for, how am I going to rise in a situation that I have now? How can I adapt to it?
Yes.
What resources do I have in order to bounce back? Now, do I know the resources? Have I given enough time to get to know myself? We are so busy with the outside
Sure.
world.
Absolutely.
We're so busy to get to know our product, our services, our bosses, our companies, and
Yes.
we know everything about it.
Yes.
Inside out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you understand what
No,
I'm
no,
getting
I
from.
fully agree with you, because, like, knowing ourselves is like such a critical thing, and very few of us really know, right? And I'll give you my own personal example as well, right? So as I kind of, got into the pandemic and I kind of moved on from my job as well, I did one of the first things, something that I never thought of, was to take an executive coach. So I actually took on an executive coach, this lady who I know. She's an executive coach to many CEOs and executive leaders. She's also a friend. So we said, okay, fine, I'm going to kind of, first time in my life, take an executive coach. And the conversation started, and she said, okay, so this first session, she said, so Aseem, so who are you, right? And I said, well, okay, so I'm Aseem Kapoor. I am, I'm an HR professional. I have headed, the HR function and the talent function. And she's like, oh, stop. She said, that's you professionally. Who are you? So I'm like, okay, fine. So, okay, I'm Aseem Kapoor, father of two, husband of a beautiful businesswoman. I was born in, she said, okay, but that's, where you came from and your responsibility and everything, right? So, but who are you? I'm like, okay, all right. So now I'm starting to squirm in my seat, right? So I'm like, okay, I am Aseem Kapoor. I really value trust. I really value honesty and openness in people. And she's like, okay, but that's your value system. Who are you? And I'm like, okay. I said, I give up. I don't know the answer to that question. And she said, well, that's the point. We need to find out who you are. And I said, okay, let's start off. And, coming from a corporate job like you did, the mindset is all about timelines, about targets. And I said, okay, fine. So I'm all for it. So we will find me in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or, she says, my friend, it may take you your whole life and you still may not know the answer. So let's start the journey. And I totally agree with you that we become so absorbed with all the external aspects that we actually forget to think who we are, find out who we are. And then I read this awesome book. It's called The Untethered Soul. I don't know if you've kind of read it as well, but that gave me such an awesome insight into taking those first initial baby steps in actually opening or starting to open those peels that can help you find, your true self and everything, right? But again, going back to the book, one of the things that you had said, that the responsibility of our happiness lies with ourselves, right? Yet there are so many external factors that actually impact it. Is it really possible for somebody to take control of their happiness?
Definitely. So if you think that 50% of happiness is in our genes and we inherit it, right? It's part of our DNA. We have a health system. It can be inherited from our family. If we had some issues in our family, somebody who had depression story or mental health issues, and we have maybe problems in our health. Okay, this is 50%.
Right.
10% is external, right? External events that impact us. 40%, it's us. What can we do about happiness? We are in charge of these 40%. So 50% we inherit, 10% it's the external, and 40% it's us.
Right.
So, as I said, 10% is the environment.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. The environment we cannot control.
Yes.
But we can control how we think about it.
Right.
We can control how we perceive it.
Right.
We can control how we're going to act upon what the environment is giving us, because we always have a choice.
Right.
So if you are in a company and you're unsatisfied and unhappy and demotivated and you are not performing, but you love your job, the whole environment is not giving you what you want.
Right.
So you have a choice.
Right.
You either make it work by communicating, finding solutions, talking to bosses, or if it doesn't work after that, you have a choice to leave.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But so many people stay in their places, grumbling, crying, and victimizing themselves.
Right.
And by being in this victimization mindset,
Right.
you will get nowhere.
Right.
And people think, it's like a magical stone. Happiness is like, and even the way we define happiness, each one of us have our own definitions, right? I don't think that happiness is only an emotion. It's a science. Happiness is a mindset. Happiness is a total state of being. And we're in charge of it because we're in charge of our minds, right?
Right.
I'm not saying that the environment is cannot impact us. Look at my own environment where I grew up. I mean, if I would have let this environment take control of me, where am I today?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So your coach said that, who are you? Yeah. So there are two best days in your life. The first one is when you are born.
Yes.
And the second one is when you discover why you are born.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, it takes time, as much as it can take no time. It's as much as you will go back to the foundation. Imagine, I love this parable that was in the New Testament Bible that says that building a house over a rock so that it will stand all over the storms, the floods, the winds, anything will not shake the house, right? If you build it over a rock, nothing will shake it. If you build it over sand, any extremes, wind or any floods, at the end of the day, will collapse the home.
Right.
Who's the house?
Right.
We are our house.
Right.
We are our own houses, right? So where is our rock? If we don't discover our core, our deepest self inside, and the only way we can do that is by being alone with ourselves and sorting things out and letting things come up, face them, find solutions. I mean, we cannot in half an hour explain how we could do that, but getting to the root cause of our being essence and keep this essence to be who really we are, wherever we are. We are not Aseem and Larissa corporate, and we are not Aseem and Larissa at home, and we're not Aseem and Larissa with friends. I mean, we're who we are, wherever we are.
Right.
And unfortunately, the conditioning that we are live in and the system and this mentality of corporate like rigidity of having to leave at home what has to stay at home. I agree. There's a minimum that you can bring in. Nevertheless, you are you. And you need to be you authentically wherever you are.
Definitely.
And this is what my message is in my Happydemic book is not only I want to spread the importance of living happily and healthily and spreading it, is as well creating more awareness of the importance of us now, all of us working together, because together we can make it. On our own, we cannot.
Right.
You need two hands to clap.
Sure. No, I completely agree because, it is so, it's so prevalent that, people take on a different persona when they come to work. And then when they leave, they are something different. And I just think that brings about a level of stress that eventually leads to, breakdowns and depression and so on and so forth, because you're constantly trying to be somebody that you're not. And it may be that your environment is actually forcing you to be like that. But like you said, then the choice lies with us, right? Do I want to continue with that environment and then in the long run really impact myself negatively? Or do I make a choice and I say, okay, time to walk away, right? And yes, it does bring its own challenges, but perhaps having, thought through it, it will make more sense, right? But just touching upon how organizations kind of look at happiness, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there is such a large population that is in companies and organizations, all different, whether it's profit making, non-profit making, and so on and so forth. But when you talk to companies or to CEOs and corporate people, the whole concept of happy is considered so fluffy, right? To say, okay, do you have happy employees is like, what does that really mean, right? Yes, we have engaged people. We measure engagement on a regular basis. We have annual staff satisfaction surveys and so on and so forth. Our staff are, high levels of 90% satisfaction rate and so on and so forth. But are they really happy? That's something that nobody really looks at because, again, like you said, it's sustained happiness. It's something that you got to measure always, all the time, right? It cannot be through just a one-stop survey and say, okay, I have happy people. But I mean, I don't know. What's your point? If you do, organizations really believe in it? Because there's a lot out there, right? It's not that companies don't know, right? I mean, especially coming from service industries, we all know happy employees is equal to happy customers. And I was looking at some, I'm just going to read out some of these, I can't even Where this, I'm just going to read out some of these percentages I saw. So companies with happy employees outperform competition by 20%, right? Happy salespeople produce 37% more sales. Happy employees take 10 times fewer sick days, right? I mean, all these stats are out there, but I don't know if organizations really work towards creating a happy environment or having happy employees.
There are two types of organizations. There are organizations that look at happiness and well-being of their staff as being something we have to do.
It's a tick box.
Yeah, it's like the necessity thing toolbox. But
Yes.
do they really believe in it? I have a question mark. And we do have many examples of companies who have put happiness and well-being of their employees part of even the strategic vision and mission of the company. And look at the results.
Right.
So definitely happiness do make people more productive, as much as that jeopardize their productivity if they don't achieve it, if they fail to have it. So, as you said, absenteeism, so you need to get more people, loss in revenue, because I will reverse the question to you. How can an employee be productive fully, optimally, when their mind is busy with so many things? Racing mind, when we know what we're talking about, when we have a racing mind, so one thought gives another one. Imagine when it's all negative, with the confusion, with no clarity in the company, with the pandemic actually, they don't know if they're going to lose their job or not. They're no longer working from their own offices. They're working from home.
Yes.
Right. Salary cuts and so forth. Did the company prepare or had, like, let's say, this crisis management bouncing strategy? Or at least, like, how are they going to cope with the situation now in the pandemic? Some companies did. So they were starting to do some webinars about happiness online, taking care of their people. So they reacted or acted. Now, it's good. And now when the pandemic is over, do we stop?
Right.
This should be like any other KPO, key performing objective, yeah? We are always, all of us, and we know, looked at our results and we give us KPO objectives about results and, like performance. What about happiness and well-being?
Yes.
Can they be measured as a KPO by each department, by each leader in the company? It's not just the word of, they put this as HR work.
Yes.
Is it HR only? Is it only the training manager's work? No. It's every single individual in the company who's a leader, leading people, by example, hopefully, and inspiring, should be a happiness master coach of his own department. Can you imagine what it would look like if each leader is leading by example? But first of all, leading by example means what? They all use this leading, inspirational leadership, leading by example. If you don't live it yourself as a leader, how are you going to portray it and spread it to the others? And they know it's fake. It's because I have to do it. No. For as long as you don't live it really fully, it will not be authentically given to the others. True. So in my opinion, yes, training, coaching are not only important, they're mandatory. But it's not the role only of a HR department and a training manager department. It should be every single leader in the company. And as I'm telling you, it's not something we learn at school, by the way. We don't learn how to filter all what we have soaked in without knowing whether it's going to be beneficial for us in the future. How do we know that? This is going to maybe make us sick or ill or depressed. We don't know. We just soaked all the information, all the environment. Definitely. And we are now paying for what we soaked in. Right. So either you pay attention or you pay with pain. And pain is good because through pain, there's gain.
There's gain, True.
So again, it's a bit paradoxical because I'm talking about happiness, but I'm telling you through pain. Yes, we need, because the moment adversity hit us, this is the moment we start thinking about getting out of the comfort zone. Right. So do we really need to wait for adversity to wake up?
No, I think if you're completely right. If it kind of becomes a normal part of how we act and how we behave and how we live our lives and everything, you don't necessarily have to wait for adversity, right? It's just that you're right that this pandemic came and it pushed everybody out of their comfort zone. But we also know that the real growth happens when you're outside your comfort zone and everything, right?
Definitely.
And as you grow and, like you rightly mentioned, we pick up so many things as we're growing, our personal beliefs gets formed, our conditioning happens and so on and so forth. Where do we and how do we actually break from that conditioning, which maybe is not serving us to our level best and everything, and actually creating a hindrance now is where that that real life journey will start. But first, the awareness of it needs to come right, and that's the critical aspect. But you mentioned about leaders, and I completely agree that the happiness of employees in a particular organization needs to be the responsibility of every leader. But at the same time, things like emotional intelligence, resilience are so crucial and are so crucially looked at for leaders of today. Do those things also stem from people being happy? Like, I mean, are they more emotionally intelligent if they're happy? Are they more resilient if they're happy?
So again, emotional intelligence relates to all your emotions. I look at emotions as being a thermometer. It's like the temperature of the soul.
Right.
It will tell you whether this is hot or this is cold or this is good or is not good for you as a human being when you know yourself, right? So I look at happiness thermometer, and when it hits the area of this doesn't feel good. So what do? Do we just sit there and just let it go or let it in, or do we work on it? So emotional intelligence, I don't look at it only just by regulating our emotions or becoming only aware of it. Becoming aware is important, but then we need to be able to make a strategy of rising. How are we going to face it? Which plan? So I use awareness, analysis, rising strategy, action, repeat. To make it simple, wake up.
Right.
Think, plan, do, repeat. Which means what? We need to be our own judges. Whatever we think of, because there's not only emotional intelligence. Emotion is the result of a thought. So there's thinking management too. So these are things, as I said, we don't learn them at school. So we need to learn them from a young age by families who are example to us of emotionally intelligent parent, thinking managers, leaders, and this starts from our schools too. So not only the companies, everybody has to be involved in this mental health education.
Right.
It's not something that we are born with.
Definitely.
Some people are optimistic, but it doesn't mean that everybody is optimistic. Some people are pessimistic by nature, but it's something we learn. It's like a skill. Right. And the moment you understand how you function in your mind and how your mind functions, and this thought that I have, I'm just aware of it. The problem with ourselves, we need to give it a label all the time, find a meaning and judge and let it come, and another racing thought comes with it. No, we need to witness it. Right. Yeah, like Eckhart Tolle. I love Eckhart Tolle, by the way. He's one of my biggest mentors in my life for my rising strategy after my biggest depressions, my hard and bumpy journey. And I love what he says. And that's what he says. He says, like, witness it without judgment, okay? Let it see, look at it, know it's there, okay? But then what you do from this, don't let it take over you.
Right.
You take over it.
Right.
And the moment we understand how we can work within ourselves, with our mind, understand how we function, how we can change from the worst negative event and get the learnings of it. And I can talk for this forever because I'm the best example of resilience, courage, discipline, determination for what I went through in my childhood until age 18. And after that, being, this leader on the top of the ladder, but so lonely and unhappy.
Yeah. True.
So what's the purpose of all this?
True.
So we want to be spreading happiness to others, and when we as leaders aren't, a question I ask, we aren't true to ourselves neither by hiding behind this transparent, curtain. Sure. I was a very good actress. Actually, I am my book is a coming out. Many of my clients didn't know that I went through all that.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And as you said, I mean, this is something I think 30 minutes is too less. I think this is something we can talk about for 30 hours, right?
Forever.
So, but thanks a lot for being with us today, Larissa. I think, for everybody who's kind of tuning in, I hope you've kind of found this conversation insightful. And this is Aseem Kapoor signing off from the Rove Podcast Studio, incidentally on Happiness Street. Thanks a lot.